Suffering Podcast.
Advocacy is a goal that allows you to bring awareness to an ongoing problem, to shine a light and gather information on a topic that may be left behind. However, bringing attention to an obvious problem without a solution becomes known as virtue signaling. Talk is cheap where actions are a bit more expensive. Putting a plan together is easy, while execution is where most fall short. Your mission is strong, your message is clear, but the action is woefully insufficient. Being the champion of a cause is a necessary first step in the eradication of a problem. But just showing up is not enough. You must be willing to put in the work. Being focused and deliberate in your behavior is the only way that things will change. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. And of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to when we're up to it. On tonight's episode of the Suffering Podcast, we welcome somebody who traveled 8 hours in torrential downpour to come and sit. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Adam. We have Adam Blevins in here to talk about the suffering of law enforcement assistance. You're providing an essential need to something that is, I would say only in the last 10 years has become important. Thank you very much for coming in.
Absolutely. I appreciate you for having me.
I appreciate it. We made our connection through the short little Lebanese guy. Mm-hmm. He calls himself the God's gift to women, but he's still a short little Lebanese guy.
Yeah, I just got to smile at him and just... That's it.
Pat him on top of the head?
Say, good job, buddy.
Listen, I'm sorry, Keith. Listen, we got to break your balls a little bit.
We love you.
Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police. We certainly don't trust anybody as podcasters, right? We're podcasters. But we do trust the boys over at Toyota Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotahackensack.com and tell them the Suffering Podcast sent you. So, Adam, you've listened to a couple episodes. Mm-hmm. Each show, we start off with our social media question. This one comes from Slipstick. We talk a lot about personal growth, but it's an ever-evolving thing. Mm-hmm. So how do you continue to focus on your own personal growth? Because I know you're still growing. Mm-hmm. You have to, especially in the field that you're in. So how do you do that?
Well, we never stop growing, right? And I just remember to, I don't want to phrase this. I just try to stay grounded, because I know what that pit looks like, and I know that I can survive it.
So is there people in your orbit that keep you grounded?
Oh, yeah, dozens. The key for me has really been surrounding myself with the right people. People that there's not an agenda, they just want to look to hold you up and to help you grow and to help you develop. They're not looking for anything. They don't want anything. They're here to help you. And if I've surrounded myself with people like that. And I would recommend anybody, if you've got the right people in your life. Tyler Perry talks about friendship and relationships like a tree, right? You have leaves, you have branches, but then you have roots, the one that carry you up or that hold you up. So for me, my growth is in my roots. My family, my wife, my son, everybody that just gives me a reason to keep pushing.
Tyler Perry once said something during an interview, and he has those. So he's pretty introspective. Mm-hmm. He had one that said, "Be careful of the people you surround yourself with, because there's a certain group of people that will lift you up. Mm-hmm. Right? They'll lift you up to a certain level, and then you'll start to eclipse them, and they don't like that. So what they'll do is they'll start poking holes in your boat to just bring them down. Mm-hmm. You want to keep those people in your life that are willing to hold you up for very long time. See, I found that with Keith. I keep those people in my life, like Tom Flynn out there, Bobby Crudell, Mike DePalma. Keith Shibley is amongst those people because I've been talking to Keith for about 2 years now, and I can tell he's based in ethics. And there are times when all those four guys that I just mentioned, there's times when they lean into me because I'm strong. Mm-hmm. And then there's times when I have to lean into them because I know they're strong. Mm-hmm. All right, and that's the power of a group. So for me, the one thing that it's not even a superpower, but the one thing that I have is I am able to listen. I have my own opinions, I have my own views, but I am willing to listen to you, and I'm willing to change my mind if your argument is strong enough. Mm-hmm. You can't come at me, with half evidence or half facts. I'm going to poke holes in that boat, mm-hmm. But if you really say something profound, I don't care where it comes from. Like, I hate Bill Maher, but Bill Maher says some stuff where I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm always willing to listen. I'm never willing to shut off my ears thinking, you know what, I got it all figured out. There's nothing you can't tell me that I don't know. And I think that's how I focus on my personal growth is if I listen to something and I gravitate towards something, I'm willing to explore it, and maybe it'll get me out of my own hole or get me to a level that I want to be at. I don't think we should ever stop listening.
Nope. Always be curious.
Always be curious.
The day you stop being curious is the day you stop growing, because you stop being curious, something in you has said, I've got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And that for me is when you make the biggest mistake.
I think the day you get it all figured out is the day you need to depart.
Yep.
This is like police work, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, they always say when you think, I always heard from when I was brand new, the day you think this department can't live without you is the day you need to retire.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
They're
So
going
it's
to
true work.
replace you Monday morning.
Yep, and they'll post your job before you're in the ground buried.
That's exactly right.
So Slipstick, thank you for sending out questions, and keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. So Adam, we got connected through Keith, and you're doing some amazing stuff that I really want to talk about later in the show. But before we do, you're Virginia born and bred?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Okay, and I can tell you got the little accent. I love it. I'm going all over the country, and I become a parrot when I'm there, and I just pick up accents. Okay, you're Tennessee, you're Virginia, you're Carolinas, and it's kind of cool. Hawaii's actually got a pretty cool one because they hit the hard R real hard.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you, where you came from, how you grew up?
So I grew up in a very small town, not even labeled a town. It's a community of Sugar Grove, Virginia, and a community of about 700 people. Not a single red light in the town, echo chamber, everybody believes the same way. Everybody knows each other, and it's a beautiful place, wonderful people, very rural, very laid back.
And where is it in the scope of Virginia?
So if you're looking at the map of Virginia, you know where Little Toe is, deep southwest? We're right in there. So I can be in Tennessee, North Carolina, West Virginia, or Kentucky in about 45 minutes.
No kidding.
Yeah, I'm not just go through all of them. But yeah, I grew up in Sugar Grove. I mentioned to you before that we started recording. I went to China whenever I was 10 and 12 years old. We adopted my two sisters. And, once I finished high school back home, just trying to figure out what we're going to do now.
So how you said you were 10 years old when your parents adopted two girls from China.
Yes,
from
sir.
China. Okay. Why did they go to China? I mean, I'm always interested in this. I know it's a little bit off topic, but I'm just curious.
Sure. No, that is, you'd have to ask my mother that question. Just something in her heart always said, my kids are here. My kids are in China, And, they had me back in 1991 and then struggled a little while to have another child. And one day mom just said, we're going to China. Everybody said, okay.
I've heard something, and I don't know whether it's fact or not. If you adopt a child in the United States, number one, it's incredibly expensive. And there's plenty of parentless kids out there that need adopting. And number two, if the parent comes back at any time, even after you've legally adopted the child, that child can go back to the parent. Now, to me, that would be heartbreaking. That's you become close. They become family. You adopt a child. I know plenty of people who have adopted children, and they are your family, and then you have to give them up. I don't think that's right. I really don't. Now, making a connection, that's later in life, that's fine. I understand that. But in other countries, so this is, please, somebody fact check me on this. In other countries, it's not so.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't know either. I was 10 and 12 years old at the time, so I don't think the same law applies like in Virginia. If a mother gives her child up for adoption, I think there's a grace period. There's a time to where she can say, "Hey, I want my child back." But in terms of international stuff, I honestly don't know. To be honest with you.
Is your mother still with us?
Yeah.
Please ask her because I'm so curious. So you grew up in this small town, no red lights. Sounds like a nice place, but then again, everybody knows your business.
Everybody knows your business. Yeah, very small town. It's one of those places where you want to be a cop, right? And growing up, I didn't have any law enforcement in my family, but I had a lot of law enforcement around me. And the dream was always to be that community protector back home. And I'm sure you've had other troops, other folks on here that have kind of bounced around in different areas and different assignments and stuff. And, when I went to Rockbridge County, Virginia, for my first about 3.5 years of my tour, that was great. But getting back home, man, to the people that you know and that just that warm place.
So there's an upside and a downside to that because you've forged all these close relationships with these people. There is inevitably going to be a time when you have to take action against
Mhm.
somebody who you know. And I know it's very difficult to do that sometimes. I've had to arrest people who I was a close friend with,
Mhm.
and it hurt me. You know, it's one of those things that you're like, come on, bro, just turn around. I got to do this, man. I don't want to do this. I got to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it sucks, but and I would always tell folks, because similar to you, I arrested people that I grew up with, that I've known all my life. But, whenever I would encounter them, I would just try with everything in me to reinforce, this ain't nothing personal. Got nothing. I like you. We grew up together. I hope this helps you, and just try to use that as an opportunity to be a positive force in their life, even though it's a very inconvenient situation.
Well, it could go either way, right?
Mhm.
So it could de-escalate a situation because you know somebody, or they could disrespect you because they know you. Oh, you know what? It's just Adam. He's not going to do anything.
I watched you play baseball. You're
Yeah.
going to give me a tip. Yeah, I got that all the time.
Yeah, that's so it could go either way, but that will speak to your personality, how you handle that situation. So when you came across that situation, somebody said, "Hey, I watched you play baseball." How did you handle that?
Just took it as an opportunity. I took every day as an opportunity. You're going to run into those. You're going to run into the opposite side of that spectrum. But how I typically handled it was just, again, I wanted to let them know this is for you. If I stop you for doing 95 miles an hour down the highway, I'm not doing it because I'm making $1 million. I'm doing it because I don't want you to hit a tree. I'm doing it because I don't want you to hit a child. People kind of forget that, this is not just cops out here. And some do, don't get me wrong. Some are out here doing it for the wrong reasons. But, a lot of folks kind of forget we're out here because we want our communities to be safer.
You want to be corrective and not punitive.
Yes,
Okay?
exactly.
And I learned that very early on in my career. Because I asked that question. I had no previous law enforcement officer experience. I wasn't a special. I wasn't a dispatcher. I went in fresh.
Mhm.
And I remember asking the lieutenants, like, how do you decide who gets off with a warning and who gets a ticket? And they told me this. Well, you know what? It's corrective, not punitive. And I've taken that lesson and I've applied it to all different ways in my life. How I deal with my kids, how I deal with I'm trying to correct bad behavior.
Mhm.
I'm not looking to punish you.
Mhm.
Now sometimes punishment is a financial loss for them. But if you're doing it just to punish somebody, I'd have to say you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yep, I agree 100%. And, it kind of brings me back to when I was in Rockbridge County. And in Virginia, when, let's say, a 16-year-old's going to get their license, right? Whenever they go to the courthourhouse, they have their final, this is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. A trooper will come in and do a safety talk, and tell them, kind of reinforce the things that they've learned, just kind of help prepare them for, this is not what the school book taught you about, right? Whatever videos you watched, yeah, they're great, good training stuff, but this is the real world. And I wouldn't say that I was hard, but I was tough enough to let them know, I'm going to be looking for you. Not looking for you, like you said, to punish you, but I'm going to be looking for you because if I catch you do anything out here that I think is going to put your life in danger, I'm going to try to correct that. And this is the reason why I tell this story is because I did a safety talk, and each kid would come by after I gave my little spiel to them. I'd shake their hand, give them their driver's license. Please be careful. If you have any questions, please look me up. Call the office. We'll do whatever we can for you. That kind of thing. 18 hours later, one of the kids that I had given his license to had been involved in a single vehicle crash, and he had ran off the roadway, hit a culvert, went airborne, and his rate of speed was so high as his truck kind of turned in the air, he hits a tree, and the kinetic energy was so crazy that the grill of the truck and the tailgate of the truck, as the truck wrapped all the way around the tree, they were touching, and it was suspended 6 feet off the ground.
I've actually seen that before because I used to do crash investigations.
Yeah, so it was not a good situation, and it wasn't until we peeled the truck off the tree and were able to and he was alive when we got there. He was talking to us for a while, but as you've seen stuff like that, once you start working on stuff, it changes. But when I discovered that it was one of the kids that I'd just given him his license the day before, that'll kind of gut you a little bit.
So did he? He didn't make it.
He didn't make it.
He didn't make it.
Did not.
Aortic tear.
There was multiple injuries. It was a very high rate of speed, very, very bad crash. But just reminded me, this is why we have those conversations. This is why, when the trooper, and I'm not saying every cop should, chew you out on the side of the road. But again, if I'm handing you a ticket, it comes from a place of love, whether you experience it or not. I'm out here to help you.
Try to get that to somebody who just got fined $400 for
I know, man. I know.
But it's tough love.
It is.
That's exactly what it is. I tell my kids, I got a 15-year-old who's getting his license in a year, or get his permit in a year, And I tell him, I'll let him drive every once in a while, not on the road, in the parking lots and stuff, because I'm trying to teach him the right way. And I tell him, I said, you are now in control of a lethal weapon.
Mm-hmm.
A lethal weapon that could kill you, or even worse than killing yourself. And my kids are so important to me. You take somebody's life in this lethal weapon, that will stick on you like herpes for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the best thing I could tell him.
Yeah.
Make him, because you should be a little scared of that stuff.
Well, Amat Victoria Karam, victory loves preparation,
So that kid, what was it? What was the feeling when you pulled that kid who you knew, who you just saw, he was talking to you, when you found out he was gone?
It sucked. As soon as the wrecker was able to get the truck off the tree, because it's an ordeal. It's not one of those things you just load it up and go. It took a while, and they were trying to be as careful and meticulous as they could, but also quick to get him off the tree and get him into medical help. But as soon as I saw him, man, it was just that sinking gut feeling, right? And all of them suck. Listen, no fatal crash, no anything that I ever worked was good if it had a bad outcome. But, there was a personal connection, like you mentioned. And,
that's an extra personal connection.
Extra personal connection. And what made it, I'm going to say worse but better, is I had to do 3 next of kins for that one crash, because each family member just couldn't call anybody. And, of course, I'll make the call for you. That's fine. But, the next day I run into his mama at work. I won't mention where she works, but I just run into her, and we grabbed each other, and we just hugged, because we had known each other via social media and stuff. And I just held her, for probably 10 minutes in this Walmart. And it's just a part of the job, man, that sucks. And it is what it is.
It is what it is.
But I consider it an honor to have done it at all.
So going back a little bit, you had that dream. You wanted to be that protector of the community. So how did you start your law enforcement career?
Okay. Well, the bug, I'll start with the bug. It was 9/11. I was in 5th grade.
Oh, dear Lord.
I'm sorry to do that to you. I know.
Oh, come on,
I was thinking about it on the way up here. As soon as we talk about a date or an age, this is what we're going to get.
Oh, man, that one kind of hurt.
Sorry. 5th grade when 9/11 happened, but I had broke my arm playing football. So I was sitting in a room with Mr. Eller, my 5th grade history teacher, and he just wheeled the TV in. It was a different time. I don't think they would do that now, just wheel it in and show the kids what's happening. But whenever all my classmates came in, we just sat there and we watched it. And I remember being, and how old are you in 5th grade? What, 10 years old? 10?
To 11.
So 11, something like that. And I remember just watching it and seeing not only debris, but humans fall from this building. And then I watched these other humans sprinting towards that. And I'm thinking, what kind of human what do you have in here that's different that enables you to do that? And for whatever reason, man, that was the day. That was the day it was, we need to do something, whether it's military, whether it's law enforcement, we got to get out there.
So the funny thing about that, the running towards, there was, thankfully, that day, so many people running towards that you didn't see. There were ones that were running away, because here's the bottom line. I'm not digging on those people. What I'm trying to tell you is there's something in a person that will have them run away or run towards. And you never know which one that is until the shit hits the fan. That's the problem.
Yep.
That's the problem. So, I've been asked this question multiple times. Well, they got to do a better vetting process when they get police officers. The problem is stuff like that. There's no test in the world that's going to tell me what kind of person you have, whether you have the resilience in order to go through that.
You can train every cop. You can give every police officer the highest level training out there. And people don't we do go through some strenuous training. Whenever we're doing the, stress stuff, and you got the patrol cars out there with the lights and sirens on, and they're throwing flashbangs, and all the SWAT guys are out there, and they're doing everything they can to get you as stressed to the max as they can to see how you perform. Well, that's all well and good. But in your mind, as you're sitting there training,
it's a game.
It's a game.
You're safe.
It's training. Until that real firearm is pointed in your face, you're not going to know whether you're fight, whether you're freeze, whether you're flee, or whether you're fawn. You're not going to know till it happens.
Whether you shit your pants.
Yeah.
So it's funny you mentioned 9/11, because 9/11, I was in the academy during 9/11. 9/11 is the day, because I got recalled, that I found out what being a police officer was. Do you know that? So listen, I had this thing in my head that I thought I knew what police work was. Oh, you arrest bad guys, you chase people down. No, it's not that. It's this. It's being the source of comfort when people have no idea what's going on. And the thing is, the thing that they don't know, the secret that you have to keep from them is we didn't know either.
Yeah.
We had no clue what was going on.
They probably knew more than you did because they were watching the news and you were in it.
I was standing on post and I'm making sure, because we had a couple high-value targets in town.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always interested, and I do ask that question wherever I go in this country, the impact of 9/11 on them, because we're here. We got a front row seat to it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the towers burning. And it's bad, but I don't know whether it hits and I'm not trying to fight for any type of trauma trophy or anything. Right. It's just because it was up front to us. It was in our view all the time. And so I went down to ground zero about a week afterwards, week after they fell. And I've been in New York plenty of times. It's loud, it's noisy.
Mm-hmm.
People, I just don't like New York City. It was like, it was like zombies walking around.
Yeah.
So everybody was quiet. There was no sound. There was no street lights, no cars, no nothing. It was crazy.
Just that silent echo.
Which made it worse.
Yep.
Because it amplified the silence.
Yep.
If that makes any sense.
You start paying attention to other things when there's a lot of silence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the rest of the noise is a distraction.
That's right.
So after you saw that, when you're in 5th grade, what did it do? You saw these people running towards you, but how did that push you in that direction? Are you ready to enhance your skills and provide the best care to those who need it the most? I'm Kevin Donaldson.
I'm Sherry Alsop. Our trauma-informed training is here to help, and we've been traveling across the country delivering this essential need to departments and organizations of every size, shape, and makeup.
We come to you with on-site training so you don't have to worry about travel or scheduling conflicts.
This isn't just a class, it's an interactive experience. You'll learn directly from subject matter experts who teach from a victim's point of view, putting you in the shoes of those who have experienced trauma.
This approach allows you to understand trauma on a deeper level and to better serve the individuals you work with.
We'll guide you through new interview techniques that prioritize a victim-centered approach, ensuring safety and empathy in every conversation.
And for those of you in law enforcement or other fields, our training includes post-credits, giving you the extra added value and recognition for your commitment to professional growth.
We offer references upon request to show just how effective our training can be.
Don't miss the opportunity to improve your understanding of trauma and make a real difference in the lives of those you serve. Get in touch with us today by going to sherryalsop.com and let us bring trauma-informed training to your organization.
Together, we can make a lasting impact.
It's conflicting, because again, being in 5th grade, as I think back on it, I'm thinking like, how would I have even been able to comprehend what is going on in 5th grade? But at the same time, when you think about the magnitude of that event, right? And being that age, I don't know really what it was. It was just seeing it. I don't know that I had any idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. That was not really a thought I was having. I only cared about sports, and that was it when I was in 5th grade. But I don't know, man. That's just when it all started, and I had to do it.
So how did you facilitate that?
So once I graduated high school, I was kind of stuck with that decision of, do I want to go in the Marine Corps? Do I want to go to college? Do I want to do this? Well, Mom and Dad said, you're going to college because we're paying for it. Well, if you're paying for it, yeah, hell yeah, I'll go. Of course, there were caveats to that. It was you will maintain a B average, you will work, you will do all this, which is all well and good. But
they did you a favor.
They did, dude. I've got it so I can't even. My parents have set me up for so much success in this life because they taught me the right things, and they taught me to stay away from the wrong things, right? But so went to college, got my associate's degree, and then decided to go back and get my bachelor's in criminal justice. After that, or while I was still working on it, I got hired at Southwest Virginia Regional Jail in Abingdon, Virginia, and I did that just for a couple months because I was waiting on the state police. I'd already done all the preliminary testing and all that. So did the correctional thing for a little bit, and that was a fun gig for a little while.
My hat's off to all those corrections officers. I'm telling you now, in New Jersey, becoming a corrections officer is a hell of a lot easier than becoming a cop.
Yep.
I would have never done it.
Nope.
Never.
Being on both sides of it, I'd much rather be a cop. Oh, and the reason why is, when we're working, let's say I was in medium security pod, right? And every 15 minutes you got to go around, you got to make a round. Well, we used to have these little things, I don't remember what they're called, but how we would mark our rounds and stuff. But man, you're in there with 200 people that hate you.
You are behind enemy lines every single moment of every single day you're in there.
Yeah, and you're alone. And of course, you say alone, your backup's, 8 seconds away, right? A lot of shit can go wrong in 8 seconds, right? Especially when you've got 200 people that hate you, so, but I did enjoy it. Worked with a lot of good people. And then state police came calling and joined that train for a little while.
See ya.
Yeah, gotta go.
See, I don't like the smell in here. I'm going.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a good job. But like you said, it takes a different level of resilience and stuff to be able to just stand there with those people. And you know who the problems are. You've got a group of 20 of them standing in the corner just going, mess up, CO. Make a mistake.
And you also, I know a lot of COs, and they're a different type of strong person.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting things dangled in front of them that will make their life easier.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, these guys have nothing else to do but think of ways to try to get you to trip up. And the one time you do, the one time you have a bout of weakness, they got you.
Yep.
You're done.
Yep. It's a tough job, man. But like I said, I would much rather be on the street with my tools and the training to use those tools and my backup coming with the same tools than I would be in that pod again. And just a matter of fact, in Wallens Ridge State Prison, what is it, about an hour and a half away from me, we just had, I think it was 3 or 4 correctional officers that were just stabbed a couple weeks ago. So it's a hard job.
Yeah, so if I don't do well in closed places, but if I had to ever go to prison, I would sit there and think of shit all day long.
Yeah.
Like that's all. What else are you going to do?
No, nothing.
I would be Frank Morris, who obviously in the 1962 breakout at Alcatraz.
Mm-hmm.
That would be me.
Yeah.
All right, how can I do this? How can I figure this out? I got all the time in the world to figure it out. I'll take my time.
Yep, either that or, and this would be no offense to any CO, but I'm going to slug the first one I see because I'm going in SEG. I'm not going to be in Gen Pop being a cop. Not going to happen. So
the funny thing is, I'm a history guy, right? I do watch a lot of shit about Alcatraz. The inmates loved being in Alcatraz?
Really?
It was the safest prison in the United States.
Well, let's get ready to reopen.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It was the safest prison in the United States. There was no violence. There was very little, limited.
Right.
They fed them very, very well. Okay, so some places in San Francisco will actually serve the meal that Alcatraz did off of their menu because that was something they could take away if they misbehaved. Hot showers.
Mm-hmm.
They all got hot showers because they figured they can't acclimate to the cold. So from a prisoner's perspective, it was a great place.
Yep.
You got treated really well. You had a single cell. That was it.
Yep.
So, but unfortunately, it's an unrealistic thing. You can't house 200 people in a federal penitentiary and expect it to stay open.
Yeah. But when I used to work in max security, there was this fella in there. Again, I won't say no names or anything like that, but he ran the pod. He was the honcho, and every 2 weeks or so, I would just go in there and look. I need all the paraphernalia in this pod on this table. If it's on here by 6 o'clock, you get an extra shower, you get an extra few minutes. I'll bring you a peanut butter sandwich, whatever you want, man. We'd come out an hour later, there'd be porn and cigarettes and tattoo stuff and everything you can imagine on there.
If you really want, just give them the porn back.
Yeah, you can have that, dude. Yeah. But I need this other stuff.
I've never been stabbed by a porn mag or something,
Yeah.
But that's good though, because you showed them compassion. Mm-hmm. You treated them like an adult. Because I'm a big believer, if you treat most people like adults, they'll act like adults. You treat them like children, they're going to act like children.
Yeah.
So if you give them a little bit of dignity, a little bit of respect, I think that respect would rub off a little bit.
Sure. I can dislike you. I can not agree with your way of life. I cannot, endorse the things you've done to other people and still respect you. If you're respectful to me, we're not going to have any problems, and those people, their lives are shit. And yeah, it's that way now because of their actions, right? But who am I to make their life any harder, right? They made their choices. They're doing their time for it. But at the same time, the respect I show them is going to make my life a lot easier. Correct. And it's going to make my life a lot safer, and it's going to make my CO's lives a lot safer. So
you're trying to give them that little bit of doubt in their mind. They're like, hey, you know what? He treats me with respect. Not today. We're not going to do this one today.
Yep.
And it might keep you safe, get you home. But now, if you're a prick.
Oh, yeah. You ain't going to last long.
Yeah.
They'll let you know.
Yeah. But so that guy who ran the pod, did you treat him with a little bit extra respect, knowing that if he ran the pod, he would have been your control by proxy?
I won't say I treated him with any more respect. It's just I knew that he would get shit done.
Yeah.
That's just how it was. And he was a lifer. He was a guy that wasn't getting out of there, so he wanted his life to be comfortable.
Well, they got to make their own lives in there.
They have to. I mean, it's their house.
Yeah.
But I had to remember I'm walking into their house. This is their house. in their mind, right? So I wouldn't want anybody coming to my house and treating me like shit. Now I know the dynamic's a little different, right? But again, I don't need to make your life any harder because you're gonna make my life harder. You know, you do your time. I'm gonna get my paycheck. We're all gonna go home. Everything's gonna be fine.
Well, I'm going to go home.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go home. You'll go home in 1 to 6, maybe. We'll see. Depends.
What was the worst crime you had somebody in there for?
Oh, homicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. There was a fella in there that was a double homicide, and he was the max security pod where I worked. All the violent offenders were on one side of max, and all the sex offenders were on the other side. So it was a real don't pop both sides of the doors at one time type thing. But yeah, it was a good time.
I would love to be able to sit down with one of those people and just psychologically try to get in their head. Just, okay, what makes you different than this person? How were you able to take a life so easily? Because some of them do it very easily. And you know, you might be in here for a drunk drive and whatever it may be, something smaller. I'm always very interested in that.
Well, I'll tell you, I learned a very valuable lesson whenever I transitioned into mental. Well, I've learned a lot of valuable lessons in transitioning, but before I left the state police, there for about, I want to say 7 or 8 months, I was taking over all the sex offender cases in Smith County. And I was a hammer. I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted every one of them to understand, new sheriff in town, right? New sheriff, new sex offender trooper in town, but just walk the line. That's it. All I need you to do is what you're supposed to do. I'm not trying to make your life hard, that kind of stuff. Just let's stay with it. But I got to be honest with you, man, I hated them. I absolutely hated them. And whenever they would come in and, you know, you're working on the registration paperwork and stuff, making sure things are squared away, they'd start telling you your life story. Don't give a shit about your life story. Don't care. I know what you did. Don't care why you did it. I don't need to hear any of that, right? So then I transitioned into mental health, and I'm not endorsing anything. I'm not saying, you know, feel sorry for these people. When you join or whenever you transition into mental health, you start to learn a little bit more about how this works. And you start to learn a little bit more about how past experiences and family and culture and religion and everything that comes together that shapes the end result, right? And when I started to learn so much about these people, and you realize how many of them grew up abused and how many of them were molested themselves. And it's a tough, right? It's a tough thing to even think about. But
so we had the opportunity in here. We almost had it happen, but his parole officer wouldn't let it happen. Have a childhood sex offender in here to speak to. All right. And I was very clear with him. You have to be, as Tom put it, full-throated, contrite.
Yep.
Like, you got to own this stuff. You're not, and nobody ever talks to them. They talk to the victims. And now, mind you, I'm a victim, or I'm a survivor of childhood sexual assault. So me being willing to sit down there, because here's the way I was thinking. How do you find out about murder?
Yeah.
Do you find out about murder from the family of those who were murdered? Or do you find out from the murderer?
yes, the murderer.
You ask the murderer, how'd you do it? Why'd you do it? Right? Same thing with child sex offenses. Okay, let's but unfortunately, too many of them will play the excuse games.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm a survivor of childhood sexual assault. I've never thought of it. You follow me? So why are you different?
Yep. It's one of those things where I still don't like you, right? Still don't endorse what you've done. Still ain't gonna tell you you're a good person, but now I understand. Now I can put pieces together that help me understand how you got to where you are. It doesn't change anything. We're still here now. But whenever you're able to have that understanding, it just changes things. And I tell you, man, I wish I would have had at least an associate's degree in some kind of mental health, some kind of psychology or something before I went into law enforcement. Because as I transitioned out, man, I learned there are so many cases looking back that I would have done not a whole lot of different things, but I would just have approached certain people differently. I might have said different things, you know.
Well, you had
22.
You had a different education, right? So my speaking partner, Sherry Alsop, and I go out and we speak trauma. We talk about trauma-informed training. We give a whole class on it. Now, you're learning it from a survivor's perspective, okay? You can't learn it from somebody who hasn't been there. How are you going to learn how these guys think unless you dissect their brain? And what's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to be able to spot signs early on so you could veer them in a different course. You can get them certain help so it doesn't happen, or protect your own children. Now, you said you were a father.
Yes, sir.
Now, that's a whole different wrinkle, because I'm sure when you held that beautiful baby boy, girl?
Boy, just turned a year old.
I'm sure the first time you held that beautiful baby boy, you looked at him and said, somebody does you wrong.
Oh.
They got to deal with Papa. Yeah, you don't know love until you, and you also don't know fear until you look at your child.
I would say you don't know love, you don't know fear, and you don't really know how capable you are of violence
Yep.
until you have a child.
Yep.
And again, he's a year old. I'm fresh at this, brand spanking new. But you know how it goes. You have the thoughts. You're walking through the store and you're sitting there thinking, wonder what I would do if that son of a bitch right there just pulled something funny right now. You know, you just start mapping it out.
You start seeing people like, that son of a bitch is weird. Let's stay away from him.
Mhm.
You know, you start, even if it's unreal, because that child, you, for the first time in your life, and I'm going to say for the first time, maybe I'm wrong, you care about something more than you care about yourself. Your spouse, listen, I'm sure you care deeply for your spouse.
Sure do.
It's got nothing a knock on him, but that is your blood. That is a piece of you. It's completely different. Every new parent I said, there's two things that you're going to see being a new parent. Number one, you thought you knew what fear was. Now you're really going to know. And the second one, I say, you're not a real parent until they shit up the back of their neck.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah.
Oh my, especially when it's nice and green.
Yeah.
No, I tell you, when I realized that I had found the right woman, was when I asked her one day. I said, "Let me tell you, me, you, and Atlas are on, top of a building, okay? And the only way for him to survive is for you to throw me off the top of the building. I need to know what you're going to do." And she said, "Oh, I'm kicking your ass off that building. I married the right woman, right? Yes, throw me off that building."
See, the right answer, I think, in her eyes would have been like, you don't even have to make the decision. I'm going.
Yeah, well, probably, yeah.
So, I mean, and you weren't working doing sex offenders while you were a parent, because I don't know whether you could do it. I just don't. Yeah, sex offenders for adults, that's one thing, but the childhood sexual offenders, I don't know whether you could do that job.
You'd have to find a place to put it. You'd have to. And again, I was whenever they would walk in, I don't care about your story. I don't need to hear none of that. I need you to sign here. I need your thumbprint here. It's all I need, right? Yeah. But having a kid at the time, the stories that I heard, it would have been a different story.
So while you were on, did you ever lose a child?
On the job?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Several.
So
matter of fact, one was the one that started it all.
When you do that, and every police officer I've ever had in here, if you ask them that question, what's your worst call? It's always loss of a child. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, when I lost 3 and I wasn't a parent yet, because I don't know how I would have dealt with that. So before you were a parent, you saw things like that. You saw this guy wrapped around a tree. How many years in being a cop did you start saying, I gotta start taking care of this stuff?
It was quick. It would have been 2016, 2017, that kind of year-long span. Dude, it was, if something bad was going to happen in Rockbridge County, Virginia, it was going to happen when I was working.
Oh, you were a black cloud?
Oh, dude. And I think every cop at some point in time in their career has a black cloud around them, but mine just wouldn't go away. Any fatal crash, any mass casualty, anything. I mean, it doesn't matter what, I was going to get it, right? But yeah, I saw a lot of stuff. Ambush situation, Charlottesville, 2017. I'm sure you remember Charlottesville. Yeah. My first day on the job, in fact, I wasn't even a trooper yet. You have a probate phase where they send you out and do some stuff, and then you go on FTO for a little while. My first day was a plane crash. 30 minutes before the end of the shift, twin-engine Cessna goes down off Route 91 in Saltville, double fatality. And yeah, man, it's just been, there was a whole year there between 2016 and 2017 where I was tested in ways that I couldn't even imagine.
My first, I think, 5 or 6 dead bodies were always on the toilet, right?
Yep.
So whenever I walked into a house, where's the patient? In the bathroom. No.
Here we go again.
Here we go. That was the way it went. But after a while, you become so hardened to it, and then the problem is you bring that hardness home.
Yep.
You're able to shut it off at work because you have to go to the next call. Yep. And then what happens, it spills over into your personal life, and that is when stuff, in my opinion, that's when it's time, okay, just go for a recharge. Go talk to somebody. But they won't. They won't.
Well, and for me, it all happened so fast, because I thought I was good. Don't we all think we're good, right? Well, when you take each trauma and you just put it right on top of the other one, of course you think it's good. You've compartmentalized it. Let's move on. Everything's fine. Until one day that one thing happens. And all the stuff you've pushed down for so long just comes right back up to the surface.
At the most inconvenient time.
At the most inconvenient time.
So what was that for you?
That for me, so we had several, and to map out that year, again, we had Charlottesville, we had, I was involved in an ambush situation. It was a good outcome. Nobody ended up getting badly hurt that day. Several fatal crashes, but the one that just, and I had some personal stuff going on at home with some family members, and I was 2.5 hours away, and I couldn't be there for them. Couldn't take care of them. But one day I was sitting in dispatch working on a 7-car pileup crash report from the night before because I was on midnight shift.
3 school buses.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It was 3 helicopters. Terrible. No fatalities that day, actually. Took a call, routine, right? Always routine call. And resulted in a homicide investigation involving a 2-month-old victim.
Yeah.
And she took her last breath right here. They were able to get her back on the bird, but she died, I want to say 2 hours later. And dude, that destroyed me. And because each time I would experience something, I would just go home, swallow that lump in my throat, everything's fine. Well, then I started flushing that lump down with alcohol, and just not taking care of myself. And when this happened, man, it just turned everything around. I started isolating myself, started drinking all the time, wouldn't go to the gym, didn't want to be around anybody. And I always like to be alone. I really like my privacy. I really like being alone. But when all that happened, that aloneness wasn't something I needed anymore. It was something that I didn't have a choice. I didn't want to be around anybody. I wouldn't eat lunch with anybody. It was just, I was in this depressive pit, man. It was terrible.
Did people try to call you?
Not at first. I hid it well for a little while, so to speak. But once the uniform started looking like shit, once you started getting complaints on the street, that's when people started noticing. Once you stopped showing up for lunch, all the other units are going to eat, and you're going home, people started asking questions.
The reason I asked that is because after my shooting, there were people who reached out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk to nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to say to them. I didn't feel like talking. And one of them, he was my FTO. And the reason I bring this up, because he just called me last week, and I hadn't spoken to him in 12 years.
Wow.
And I told him, he calls me, and I said, yeah, listen, I know you called. I saw the call. I didn't pick it up. I didn't want to talk to nobody. And then time went on, and I know it's on me. I get it. It's on me. But please understand that it had nothing to do with you. I do appreciate your call. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. And there were people who didn't call, and I was mad at them for a while. But then you think, well, I wasn't going to pick up the phone anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So what am I mad at?
Yeah.
So that's why I asked that question.
Well, and I had one guy who, coincidentally enough, we grew up in the same place. And whenever I graduated the academy, he's the one that wanted me to go to Rockbridge. He talked me into it. But he was one of the first ones to approach me, and he was on the state police peer team. And so he approached me one day, and he's just like, "Hey, man, I know you had that call the other night. Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, man, I'm fine. Fine.
Those 3 words.
Fucked
fine.
up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Right?
Fine, good, okay. Those
Yep.
are the ones I don't accept.
And I was fine. I was all those things that he said. But I ignored it for a while. And then it got to the point to where then my supervision couldn't ignore it. Supervisor called me in and said, "Hey, we need to do something, man. You're not okay." And I still wasn't ready to admit it. I was still, "No, sir, I'm good. I'm a hard-ass trooper. I don't need none of this," right? And then he said, "Well, I'm going to send you to a post-critical incident seminar." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "That's a place where cops go to talk about their feelings." I said, "Cool. Not going to that. Thanks. What else you got?" So I went to that. And
You were voluntold?
I was voluntold. And it changed my entire life in 3 days.
What was it that resonated with you inside this thing?
It's put on by the Virginia Law Enforcement Assistance Program, who I'm now the operations director for. And there are 15 programs around the country who does a post-critical incident seminar. And it started with the FBI years ago. They don't do it anymore. But anyway, when I went to this place, it was so daunting. I did not want to be there. Just hearing cops talk, just hearing cops and feelings in the same sentence, I don't want a part of that. Thank you. Because I didn't believe in any of it. If I'm being honest with you, if you'd asked me 10 years ago what my opinion was on therapy or peer support or whatever, I'd have laughed at you. I'd said, weak, don't need to be doing the job, right? All the stigma-ridden BS that we convince ourselves of. But I walked in this place Monday morning, and I'm surrounded by just nothing but cops from all over the place, all over the state, all over the country. And on that first day, this guy stands up, and we just lost him not too long ago to cancer, but he was a retired Secret Service agent who transitioned into mental health, became an LCSW, and he was telling us, "Y'all gonna tell you a story today." And we're all sitting there going, "What's that? Worst thing that ever happened to you? Why don't you talk about it?" Fuck off. I'm not talking about this stuff. There's no way, dude. But after the first guy talked, and then the second girl talked, and I'm watching these cops bare their soul, and I start to realize, wait a minute. This island that I thought I was living on, I'm still on that island, but I never took the time to turn around and look to see all the other people standing behind me. And I learned it that day. And it was not only that, but there's several other things that go on at PCIS. There's a lot of peer support, a lot of classes. You get EMDR therapy, you get a medical massage, all kinds of stuff. But I did not realize how hurt I was mentally. I didn't realize how hurt I was physically because of my mental issues. And I learned it right there.
So when you're walking in that dark alley, right, you can't see nothing. This was put, I wish I could take credit for this, but I've told it enough. I think after I give credit once, it's mine. It's just the way it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you're walking in that dark place, right, you sound like you're in a really, really dark place. You feel so alone, and you know something's wrong, but you don't want to admit it. You won't even admit it to yourself, because if you admit it to yourself, that means you're weak in your mind.
Yep.
What you don't realize is there are people walking with you, but they have night vision.
Yep.
It's completely dark, and not until you get towards the end can you look around like, where the hell did you guys come from?
Yep.
But they've been with you the whole time.
Yep.
That's what people don't realize about that stuff.
That's true. And kind of similar to that, when we wrapped up the seminar, and it's a 3-day seminar, and I'm telling you, man, I walked away from this just saying, how do I feel better? How do these other 40 cops, I've heard their stories. I now understand the hell that brought them here, just like the hell that brought me here. How are we just walking away from this smiling, right? Well, the last day of the seminar, one of this guys, one of our board members, really good friends of mine, gets up and he says, Adam's walking down the street one day, and he falls in this big, deep, dark hole, and he can't get out. He's clawing at the dirt. He cannot get out. And a doctor comes walking by. He goes, "Hey, doc, help me. I've fallen in this hole. I can't get out." Doctor says, "Well, son, I can't get you out of the hole. I can write you a prescription." Doctor writes him a prescription, throws it in the hole. "Have a good day. Good luck." Pastor comes walking by. Says, "Father, help me. I've fallen down this hole. I can't get out." Preacher says, "Well, son, I can't get you out of the hole. I can pray for you." Says a prayer, continues on his way. Kevin comes walking by. "Brother, help me. I've fallen down in this hole. I can't get out. Will you jump in the hole?" "What the hell are you doing? Now we're both stuck in this hole." And you say, "I know, but I've been in here before, and I know the way out."
I like that.
That's how peer support was described to me. And hearing it in that moment after just experiencing it, oh man, it was perfect, because there were people who, when I started telling my story and, I started getting, teary eyes, I was so afraid to let it out. Right? Aren't we all so afraid to let that go?
It's not like the movie The Other Guys.
No.
When they're sitting around, talk. And I've told this to people before. It's not like, how did it feel when you fired your gun? It felt like my dick was made out of concrete. It's not like that. It's every, you have your quiet ones, and you have your ones that are a little further along that are willing to share. Hopefully that'll draw those people who are being quiet out. And because again, like you said, and I think it's perfect. Those who are further along will jump in the hole with you, because they know it's not a forever thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Been there before. Know the way out. And I've kind of taken that with me ever since, because, I joined the CISM team immediately, got involved in peer support, decided to go back to school to get my master's and start doing the whole counseling thing. So it changed everything for me.
So what year as a trooper are you at right now when you start doing all this stuff, start working towards this goal?
So I would have started school back in 2021. Started school back in 2021. So at that point, I left in 22. At that point, I was about 7.5 years in. And like I said, but it was everything, one bad thing after another. And
so you have to explain something to me. This is a job that it seemed like you were working on ever since September 11th.
Mm-hmm.
You were working towards this. This is where you felt your place in this world was. And now you're going to leave it all behind. I'm sure when you took the job, you're like, this is me.
This is it. I'm
it.
going to die in this car.
All right.
Absolutely.
And how do you do that where you just leave this one behind and go over here to the therapy end of it?
Being at that PCIS is where I learned that you don't necessarily just get one purpose. Purpose is fluid. Purpose moves with us, right? Purpose moves as we move and grows as we grow. Sometimes purpose is just getting out of the bed. Sometimes purpose is just, being able to put a smile on your face, right? So I guess it was in that moment that I realized my purpose had shifted. I always wanted, like I said, I wanted to die in that car. I wanted to be a trooper until I could not be a trooper anymore. That's what I wanted to do. But when I went through what I went through and learned that what was killing me is overcomable, right? That there's actually something out there that can help me. And to see how rapid it was, like with EMDR and all that other stuff, I needed to know, how did this happen? And how do I get this to other people? Right? How do I show people, that hole's dark, it's deep, it sucks, but there's a way out of it, because as you and I both know, there's a lot of folks that don't make it out of that hole.
So one of my favorite sayings is by Voltaire.
Yep.
It's to heal is as noble as to create.
Yep.
And you took the job as a police officer, trying to make a difference, trying to do what was right, trying to be corrective and not punitive. So your mindset didn't change. Your profession did.
Yep. True.
You know, I'm sure you'll always have a blue heart because even though I'm no longer
I'm still certified.
Yeah. I will never leave being a police officer. That is something that's in here. It's in me. But at the same time, my purpose has shifted. My purpose is doing stuff like this, is to going out and speaking to people. And it gives me more fulfillment than being a police officer. And police officer work gave me a lot of fulfillment.
Absolutely.
So it's okay to shift that stuff because you thought you knew. Just like when you were 13 years old and you thought you had the world figured out. Well,
I'm tough. I know it all, yeah.
I know it all. I know it all. Then when you're 18, you figure out how stupid you were when you were 13.
And then you're 30 and you go, well, I'm even dumber now than I thought it was.
And then by the time, I think between 35 and 40, for most people, you start figuring out, you know what, I just don't. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just going to figure this out as I go along.
Yep. And that's the thing, man. It's every day is an opportunity to figure it out.
Were you actively practicing therapy while you were a cop? You do them in conjunction?
No, it would have come to that had the VA elite position not come open. So whenever the VA elite position came open, I was just getting ready to start my internship, which is where you have to go up for a little while and do some stuff, some one-on-one stuff and some group stuff. So
because the pay's shit, you still have to support yourself. That's why I'm asking that.
Oh yeah, but I had good supervision at the time, at least my immediate supervisor. So I don't think I'd have had an issue. They would have worked it out to where, because I had an internship and everything lined up, so it would have been a pain in the butt. But they would have worked it out with me to where I could work a couple days in, the local CSB or whatever, and then do my shift on the road and stuff like that. But fortunately, it didn't come to that. The operations director job for VA Elite come up, which is the ones that run the post-critical incident seminar. And like I said, man, that felt like the best transition because I felt like I was being handed a gift, I went through this program that I attribute to saving my life because I was in a very, very, very bad place, very bad place. And then this job comes open and they say, we want you to run it. We want you to run the post-critical incident seminar. And I'm thinking, how incredible is that?
But that's got to be scary, though. You're leaving a very steady and substantial job with everything that you need to survive, financially anyway.
Yep.
To go off into the unknown.
And I'll tell you, and I guess it wasn't as unknown because I had experienced it because I participated in it. And this just felt like the right transition because, I knew eventually when I got my license and do all this stuff that I'm going to see primarily first responders, military, the major trauma stuff.
I've run into this several times. When I showed up for work one day, I never went back. And now all of a sudden you're looking at things wrong, right? So I'm looking at things wrong. I'm thinking, what the hell do I do now versus I can do anything I want now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a freedom in it.
Yeah. So for you to do that, my friend, you got some brass balls.
Well, I'll tell you, whenever sorry, I'm trying to get emotional here. One of my really good buddies who I had met at PCIS, I was his child. So when you're at the post-critical incident seminar on the second day, you get broken up into small groups, people, more homogenous groups, child deaths over here, officer-involved shootings over here, that type of thing. So there's more relatability. And the guy who led my group, his name was Patrick Dragon. And Patrick was one of the first ones through the door at Sandy Hook. And yeah.
Ooh.
And so I'm sitting in this group and he had told his story the day before, so I was aware of it. But I'm watching this guy and he's talking to us and he's sharing all these insights and all this bunch of stuff. And I'm looking at him going, how are you still standing? How do you look at me and tell me everything's going to be okay after what you've seen? Right? And then you fast forward to the next day, there was another guy in my class, in the PCIS that I was in, who was involved in another mass casualty situation. I won't mention that one because he's still here. We unfortunately lost Patrick to COVID back in 2020. He was a damn good man. But at my PCIS, there was a couple there. And on the third day, we passed the microphone around and let everybody share what their experience at PCIS has been. And this woman stands up, and she hasn't said 3 words all week. To be honest with you, I thought she was mute up to this point. I didn't know she could talk. And she stands up, she looks down at her husband, and she looks back at all of us, and she said, "Thank you." And we're just like, "Well, you're very welcome. What for?" for giving me my husband back.
Yeah.
And she looks at him and she said, I haven't seen this man in 3 years. And that's what made the transition so easy. So that way, whenever I started doing all the training and learning all the stuff and doing EMDR, watching that healing that I didn't think was possible before was just routine at that point. And I tell you, man, the gratification I got from being a cop, I mean, changing an old lady's tire on the side of the road at 2 o'clock in the morning, that brought me gratification. You know, finding a missing person brought me gratification. Whooping some bad dude's rear end that's trying to hurt somebody, that brought me gratification. But I have sat in rooms with people who have lost their children to suicide. I've sat in rooms with people who have done nothing but pick up body parts for 8 hours. And when you see those people rise from that, there's no money can't buy it. I can't even put words to justify what that feels like.
There's a power that comes from the deepest holes of suffering. Okay? It's going to take a long time for you to gain that power, but you can't get that power until you've known that suffering. Mm-hmm. So do you remember a case, this is way before your time, but it was baby Jessica. Mm-hmm. Okay, baby Jessica, I forget where it was, but it was this little 3 or 4 year old girl, and there was a 6-inch drainage pipe that went into the ground. She fell down in it. Oh. Right? So she's like 12 feet down in this thing. She's alive. They can hear her crying. That's how they found her. Somebody reached something down there and she slips further down, and one leg was up.
Oh, no.
So what they ended up doing, and it was a big thing. It was going on for days, like baby Jessica, the rescue of baby Jessica. So they tunnel underneath, and one of the cops goes down there. He's like 20 feet down and pulls her out, broke her leg, dislocated her hip or whatever, but they got her out alive. She survived. Okay. It was like a big relief. It was this cop was the biggest hero in the world. And for those graybeards out there, they're going to remember this. He was on every talk show. He was touted as a hero. He did a fantastic job. Do you know he took his life? He took his life because that thought of that baby being stuck in there never left his head. And this is in the 80s, so they didn't have the help that you and I had, you know? Mm-hmm. And if you ever need, like, that's the thing, the heroes, when you see somebody as a hero, there's no way they can be hurting inside. Right. There's just no way. But they hurt worse than most people. They're just better actors.
People don't realize that some of the brightest smiles you see on the street, when they go home, that smile doesn't come back till they go back out. You know, they go home and they're in their own pit. They're in their own shit. They're surviving. But you think they're thriving when you see them. And cops were the best at that. We're really good actors.
Yes, we are.
Especially when it comes to, how you doing? How you feeling? Oh, I'm good, man. Fine. Everything's good.
But most of the time when cops ask another cop, how you doing? They really don't want to know. That's the thing. That's why people like you are so important. You've seen both sides of the aisle now, right? You've done that job. You've had those bad calls. You've been in that dark place. Mm-hmm. Now you take that experience, which was a bad experience for you, and it caused a lot of suffering in your life, but you are a prime example of what this show is all about. You've taken your own personal suffering, your own personal tragedy, you've worked your way through it, and now it is your power. Mm-hmm. And that is your power as a therapist. I've never sat in a therapy session. I've actually done EMDR, which I call chicken voodoo. It's fucking weird, man.
Yes, it is.
It's fucking weird, but it works. My hand to God, it works. And you walk out and you go like, well, that didn't work. Yeah, it kind of did.
You're like, wait a minute. What? Yeah. I'm not thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it. I'm not getting anxious. I'm like, yeah, wow, that's kind of weird, man. So you are we're all put into places that we're supposed to be at the right time. You were put in that, and unfortunately, you were put in that situation where you lost that 2-month-old. You were put in that position where you were voluntold to go to this seminar, and then that catapulted you into a place where you're probably supposed to be.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. There's no doubt in my mind I'm where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, not only with VA Elite, but I do my counseling work through Rivers of Hope Counseling in Chantilly, Virginia. And, man, I get to just think about how crazy this is. It blows my mind every time I think about it. But I get all what we would call problem children. I get the ones that's had 5 or 6 different therapists. It's not worked.
Nothing's landing.
Nothing's landing, you know, and I'm EMDR trained. I'm trauma informed, so I get all the big stuff, right? But, man, just again, when you see somebody sit across from you and they think they've tried everything, they think they've exhausted all their resources, and you look at them and you're like, man, you're fucked up. You know, I can just tell it. But then you explain EMDR, we'll just use that as one example. But explain EMDR to them and what it could potentially result in. They're looking at me going, there's no way what you're telling me is going to happen.
Listen, hippie.
Yeah, this is what you said, chicken voodoo, witchcraft.
Voodoo.
I've heard it called Jedi mind trick. I've heard it called all kinds of stuff.
Pretty close.
But I tell you, a few weeks into it, I'll just look at them and I'll go, why don't you tell your story again? Just look at, you've heard my story. I sure have. I have a feeling I'll hear it different today. And then they'll start talking and they'll go, I'm not getting emotional. I'm not crying. This isn't bothering me. And I'm like, I know, but again, and that's what, it's so powerful, man, to see somebody. And again, you can see it on their face. And I love doing EMDR with people because you can see them when they get started. Their shoulders are touching their ears. They're white knuckling it. They're terrified.
Full attention.
And then you just watch them just kind of melt into their seat.
So are you more heavily laden with the cop clientele?
I'm pretty split right now.
Yeah.
Pretty split right now. I see everybody from bulimia nervosa to the worst trauma you can imagine.
So what I've learned about quote unquote cop therapists, because there's a lot of mine included, they are really good at dealing with cops, which makes the general public know cops are fucked up. So they want to go see them too. So they get filled up real quick.
Right.
You're like, well, it's like you don't want to call the guy who's going to build your house that has 5 years experience. You want the guy with 25 years experience.
Right.
Even though he's hard to get, might be a little bit more expensive, but he's dealt with the worst of the worst, not the guy that doesn't know many of the problems. So
Right.
that's where a lot of that comes in valuable, and I watch it. So you'll watch most, especially therapists who used to be cops or deal only in cops, they fill up so quick.
Oh, yeah. And I can only see very few people because my primary job is VA lead. I work for Rivers of Hope part-time, but yeah, and you're exactly right. People see, oh, this guy used to be a cop. He knows what suffering is.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. I do know what suffering is. But, and I'll get everything from the mildest case of anxiety to the rough stuff. But, what I've also learned is regardless as to what you got going on, none of us are, how do I want to phrase this? We're not as far apart from each other as we may think, right? Depending on what we've got going on. Now, I'm not talking about experiences and stuff like that, but, you have somebody walk in and they say, oh, well, I've got this trauma. But I know you work with all these cops and all this bunch of stuff. And that's when you just say, look, trauma's trauma. It don't discriminate. It don't give a shit who you are. Don't give a shit where you come from. It's gonna take you the way that it wants to.
It is the most unbiased teacher
Yes, it is.
in the world.
Yes, it is.
So your job as a therapist is to show them that this is a lesson. This is a life lesson that you have to learn. You got no choice but to learn it because you do have a choice. It's either you learn it or you die. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
When you break it down like that. So you wrote this book, Welcome to the Shift Show.
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about the book.
This is a kind of a 3-part book, and what I want people to understand about this is this book is written with the insight of someone who's been a cop, who has transitioned into mental health. That kind of peek behind the curtain because, I responded to the chaos. I responded to the damage. I responded to the hell. And then I learned how to sit with the people behind the curtain and see the aftermath of all those things. And having experienced kind of both sides of that and seeing all walks of life at all stages of life, I wanted to put something together to help people learn that there's more to you than you think, right? There's a lot of stuff that's happened to you, that's been told to you. You have this idea of who you are and what you're capable of, and it's not real if you haven't explored all these other sides yourself. For example, you think about trauma, and you just said this. You do have a choice. One of the best things I've ever heard was from Jeffrey Mitchell, the founder of CISM. He said a trauma will remain a trauma until an intervention is found. It's not going to go away. It's going to be there till you figure out what you need to deal with it, right? So I wanted to put something together that helps people understand, the shit show, which is life, right? Politics, identity, family, friends, experiences, all that bunch of stuff. So the first part of this book kind of unpacks the shit show of life, right? And all the things that might be dragging you down or holding you back, things you probably weren't even aware of, right? And then the second part is the struggle show, where we talk about the mental health. We talk about how trauma sticks, how things maladaptively encode on your brain, stuff like that, how a rough family can change your understanding of safety and trust and all these things. And we transition from the struggle show into the shift show, which is where I introduce the shift framework. It's very simple, just a way for people to realize all this stuff over here right? Whether it's something that happened to you or you lost somebody or somebody beat you down, whatever the case may be, right? You can always shift your life.
So the one thing I like, what you were just talking about here, the one thing I like about that is there are a lot of people out there who are hesitant to get help.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid to get help. They don't want to be labeled. They don't want to. If they read that book, it's a start.
It's a start. That's exactly right.
It's a start.
It ain't gonna fix you.
No, it's a spark, and a spark can be blown out real quick, or it can turn into a raging inferno. You never know.
That's exactly
So
right.
that's very important that you're opening that up. You're giving them a non-confrontational option.
Well, now I'll put a stop sign up there. I'm not gonna say not confrontational. This is technically on a self-help book shelf. I can't call this self-help. This is more like self-truth, self-liberation. This is a sailor tongue, rated R, your best friend who used to be a cop's now a therapist telling you not necessarily get your shit together, but you can get your shit together.
Non-confrontational means I can order it on Amazon.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
I can order it on Amazon, and I don't have to see you.
Facts.
You don't have
Yep.
to know that I ordered it.
Yep.
That's the same
I got
thing.
you. I got you.
Any self-help book's going to give you a little introspection.
Yeah.
So Adam, we're coming to the end of this thing. So why don't you? First of all, I want to thank you for this awesome VA Leap
Yes,
challenge
sir.
coin. It's going to go in place of honor right on the board here, and I also like this too, because as I told you, my therapist was also a Virginia State
Yep.
Trooper.
Yep.
Which is crazy. It's funny
Yep.
how things.
Small world.
Yeah. Why don't you give out your social media, where we can find you, where we can find the book?
You can find the book on Amazon right now or online if you're a Books A Million person, a Barnes & Noble person, wherever you find your books. If you got a local bookshop that you like, they can order it for you. You can find me on Facebook.
So you have an Ingram Sparks.
Yep, got Ingram Spark, got all of it, man.
Yeah.
Had to go Ingram Spark because
Yeah.
if you just go Amazon, a
No,
lot of
they
people don't
rob
like
you.
that.
Amazon just robs you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like that. But you can find it there. So on Facebook, you can find me under Adam Blevins Author. You can find me on Instagram, Ace Blevins 1991, or Welcome to the Shift Show. You can type it in on either Facebook or Instagram, and this book will pop up.
Like I said, we'll have if you just go like this, it'll be on a lower third right next to you.
Very good.
So Adam, listen, like I said, we're coming to the end of this thing, and I'm a big believer that suffering, like I said, it's the most unbiased teacher that we have, and it teaches us lessons that we can't learn anywhere else. And if your suffering, your own personal suffering, hasn't taught you anything, man, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So what has your suffering taught you?
The deeper the wound, the closer the soul gets to remembering why it's here. And you know, it's real easy to fall into that trap of nobody can save me, nobody can help me, I'm useless, blah, blah, blah. It's easy to get there. It's hard to look yourself in the mirror and say, I don't have to be those things, right? I can overcome this. You just have to see it. And, you know, we call crisis here in America a crisis. Which is what it is, crisis, hell, danger, chaos. In Mandarin, it stands for dangerous opportunity, right? The things that happen to us, whether it's your fault or it's not, whether it just happened to you, it doesn't have to control you. You know, it doesn't have to dictate the rest of your life. All of us have more power than we think we do. I'll share with you one more story here. We had a woman come through PCIS a couple years ago, and you know how you look at somebody and you just know something's off. And so I approached her and I'm like, is everything okay? And she just looks at me. She, no, it's not. Handed my clipboard off to whoever, and I talked to her for about an hour and a half. We talked about everything. And she was saying everything but what I needed to hear, if you catch my drift. She's a cop. She knows what to say. She knows what not to say. And I told her, you don't know this yet, but somebody somewhere needs you. You may have never met him. Whoever you help, you may never meet him again, you know? And she just kind of went on her way, and I just hoped that she would be okay. And she had a great PCIS, and everything went fine, but a couple weeks later, I got a picture. She texted me a picture from the beach, taking some time off, and she wrote in the sand because I told her, just make it one more day. I took a page out of the big book, just make it one more day. And then the next day, tell yourself, just make it one more day. It's a lot easier to plan for the next 24 hours than it is 6 months. So she sent me this picture from the beach, having written one more day, written in the sand. And every year on the same day, it gets me choked up. Every year on the same day, she sends me a picture from a different beach, one more day. And I take that picture and I put it up on all my presentations. And every class, there will be 2 or 3 people just sitting there. And they'll come up to me and they'll just go, I needed to see that. And I'll text her and I'll just say, I told you. You saved a life today and you never even said a word.
So after my partner took his life, I I came up, and it was very organic. It was just, I was doing an Instagram live right after he passed. And I just kept saying, whatever's going on in your mind right now at this moment, we're not doing this shit today. We're not today. That's all we want. It's just not today. Tomorrow's going to take care of itself. Deal with it tomorrow. And then if you still feel that way, we'll deal with it that day. So if you keep saying that, not today, and I use it in many different facets in my life. It's, if my mind's racing, listen, I'm not doing this shit today. I'm just not doing it today. So it's the same concept. And, it's amazing how that gets you through some real sticky spots.
I tell you, man, it's just a reminder that sometimes life sucks, but we're always bigger, we're always better, we're always stronger than we think we are in the moment. The brain tells us lies. Brain tells us lies all the time. It'll tell us that we're not safe, that we're not good enough, that we're all this. But it's just a message to anybody that hears this podcast. I don't give a shit if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. You need something, call me. I'm answering the phone. If I can't get you what you need, I will find you somebody.
That's what I've spent the last 5 years doing, building these resources and having a spider web of people with very similar goals.
Yeah.
Adam, I thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. You and I think a lot alike. We've never met each other.
Yep.
Never met each other, but I think we got a lot of the same values and stuff, and we also have that little short Lebanese guy.
Yeah, he's a good one. He's a good one.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, brother.
And that's going to do it for this episode of The Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Law Enforcement Assistance with Adam Blevin. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Always be curious. You never know what type of person you are, whether you're going to run towards the danger or whether you're going to run away. You got to wait for the danger to happen. Don't be a black cloud. Purpose is always fluid and ever-changing. Suffering is opportunity, but the most important thing, we know the way out.
We know the way out.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, OnlyFans. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson, and of course, follow The Suffering Podcast. We'll see you on the next one.